I got your package in the mail.
Yeah.
It's just a tape measure. What's it for?
It's for measuring it.
Measuring what?
It.
Measuring what?
It.
What?
You know.
Say it.
Say what?
Say what it's for.
It's for measuring your junk.
Hello, my name is Paul and I'm upside down to represent how Dexterity Games have turned my life upside down. You can't point at one and be upside down, it doesn't work. If you read my recent review of Go Cuckoo up on our site, which by the way I hope you did, because Shut Up and Sit Down isn't just videos, it's written features, it's podcasts, it's news, it's all kinds of... Anyway, if you've read that, you'll know I've been having some dexterity related fun lately. And this is actually as much a surprise to me as it might be to anyone else. You see, when small Paul got into board games, he got excited about them because they had combat mechanics and dungeon exploration, or the armies that you moved around, or that sort of thing. And later on, you know, they had economics, they had resources that you collected and engines that you built and stuff that you made that became increasingly elaborate. And I still really enjoy those. I have a great time with them, but I feel also as if I've been missing out. Missing out on letting my hair down. Because the thing is, okay, for me, maybe this is true for you too. When I was younger, physical related games, dexterity games were kind of gimmicky and plasticky, not very good quality, and usually just for kids. Well, let me tell you, that has changed. So, junk art. This is wonderfully wooden. In fact, it's more wonderful than you might first think it is. Like a piñata landmine, it's actually a terrific surprise waiting to burst out of the box. On first impressions, it does just seem like a game of trying to stack misshapen wooden nonsense on top of other misshapen wooden nonsense. And it is, but it's not just that. There is so much more. First of all, yes, you have a whole selection of crap here, all different shaped, chunky wooden objects that are weirdly enjoyable to just manipulate in your hands. But also you have a deck of cards, each of which corresponds to every single piece in the game, one card for one piece. So that's that blue thing. I don't know what's going to go on top of this, probably nothing. But most critically, let's not even do that. Most critically, you also have this selection of cards, which are all the names of different cities. And these are the real spice in the game that make this so very satisfying. Each of these is basically a different set of rules. Obviously, you are trying to build impressive structures, and more impressive structures than anyone else is building. However, the way you do that can vary greatly. For example, maybe you're actually drafting all these piece cards, these objects, and you're giving them to other players and saying, well, next you have to play this particular thing. Or maybe you have a stack of 10 of these cards laid out in front of you and you have to play them all in order, and that will be how you assemble your particular tower. Maybe there's different criteria for failure. For example, you might be out of the round if this isn't going to work. Oh, it did. You might be out of the round if the thing that you make falls over, or you might not. You just may not be able to use any of the pieces that have fallen, which is awful if your criteria for winning is just having the tallest structure. You may all be playing simultaneously with the first person to make something out of 10 pieces the winner. You may be playing the weird Montreal mode where you actually sort of cooperatively build things by adding some pieces and then getting up and changing places and inheriting someone else's structure and having to add to that, which encourages you to leave the thing that you just made in the worst possible state so the next person meets with failure, except obviously everyone is trying to do that all the time. Basically, junk art is eggs. Metaphorically, it's eggs. You know how you could fry eggs, or you can scramble eggs, or you can poach eggs, or you could make frittata or an omelette, or make a pancake. That's the genius of junk art. This could have just been a game about piling things, but it's so much more. It's so many combinations of metaphorical game egg. 2 points. First of all, I think some game modes in junk art are just transparently better than others. That Montreal mode, the idea that you actually move around the table, you inherit each other's structures, contribute to them, and then move on. I think that's very clever. That's a lot more exciting than some of the more vanilla building that is also suggested in other parts of the game. Great. Second, what if you don't like eggs? Metaphorically. Then junk art is not going to be the game that suddenly makes you decide, oh, I've seen the light, eggs are fantastic, I must have them all. No, if you don't want to play games that are fundamentally a little bit silly and about putting stuff on top of other stuff, junk art isn't going to change your mind. But if you think you will like it, it is absolutely, hands down, the very best game that you can get that is about putting things on top of other things. Admittedly, that's not an enormous genre of games, but they're out there, and as far as I'm concerned, they are now all eclipsed utterly by this. Junk art is absolutely the best way that you can spend your time putting stuff on top of other stuff. So, if it's not apparent by now, Shut Up and Sit Down thoroughly recommends junk art. It is at the same time silly and slapstick, but also kind of quite clever and nuanced, which I didn't really expect when I first had a look inside this box. It is a really, really good family game, great for adults and kids to play together. Also great for people who never stopped being a kid like me. If you'd like to play it as a drinking game, it works quite well as that, but if that's not your kind of thing and you'd rather be entirely sober, you're not going to be that much better at it. It also comes with these world tour cards, blank world tour cards I should say, which basically encourage you to just invent your own new rules, and I'd be really interested to hear how other people are playing the game in new ways. There's, I suppose, endless combinations of nonsense that you can come up with. If you come up with something good, let us know. It's now time, look at this, it's now time to shoot things. I missed on the first take, Paul doesn't miss twice. Pingo Pingo is a whole different kind of dexterity game. If junk art is eggs, Pingo Pingo is a bouncing jambalaya of different ingredients all tossed in together and still moving around in the pot. It's got elements of just being a game of snap, but at the same time it's also got these moments of lurching and leaping around. Then it's got target shooting thrown in. The darts just come out of the gun sometimes. And it's got, don't lose it Paul, don't lose it, it's all against the clock. And the thing is, it's one of those games that just encourages you to rush whatever you're doing as quickly as possible, even though it will deliberately, constantly encourage you to make mistakes. And that's good. I mean, it's devious, but devious is fine. We like devious at Shut Up and Sit Down. The premise is very simple. You'll put on this audio track, 15-minute audio track for the game. If you don't have a CD player, don't worry, there's MP3s on the website. And immediately, every player will start flipping the decks in front of them, and if they reveal treasure, trying to slap that treasure before everyone else does. You'll have your own personal decks, but everyone can slap cards as they go down. Now the thing is, obviously you want to end up with more treasure than anyone else, but a lot of that treasure is not what it seems. A lot of that treasure is trapped. Snakes slither out from under chests. Poisonous spiders crawl over ancient relics, and the thing is, these cards are just different enough that they warrant hesitation, but it's that same hesitation that's going to potentially see you lose treasures, see other people beat you to the goods. The thing is, if you rush in and you claim a trapped card, you lose a life point. And you only have 7 of these. And yes, this is a game that will eliminate you if you run out. But also, when the game ends, you can only score 3 treasure cards per life point that you have left. Weaken yourself too much, and you won't be able to haul your winnings home. Meanwhile, the game's soundtrack continues to throb away in the background as you sort of slap semi-uselessly at the table, or I do anyway. And that throbbing, that sort of regular drum beat that it starts with, tells you it's daytime, and you should only actually be reaching for daytime treasures. Suddenly, evening comes, everything sounds very peaceful, the atmosphere changes. That's your clue to only go for nighttime treasures. Grab the wrong kind of treasure at the wrong time of day, then, as you guessed, suffer the consequences. There are a lot of ways to very easily slip up in the game. And then there are the challenges. Setting up the game, you're going to pop standees like these in the corners of your room. And these will correspond to cards that very frequently appear. They depict a weird giant penguin statue, you don't really know what that is, or another penguin riding a polar bear, or 2 ends of a rope bridge, or a shipwreck. Cards depicting these come up all the time. You're constantly pulling them out of your deck, and they require you to do a specific thing. For example, a penguin riding a polar bear is coming at you right now. Oh my god, what do? Obviously, you have to grab the gun and open fire, except the game recommends that you put these about 6 to 10 feet away from the table that you're playing on, which is quite far, and this gun isn't very good and not really very powerful. So what are you going to do when you miss? Keep shooting. Or you might have to make a dash for one end of the bridge and then the other, or run to the shipwreck to retrieve the gun to shoot at the weird giant living statue, or just redistribute what might actually be an enormous discard pile to everybody as quickly as you can. And the thing is, these sudden spontaneous demands upon your lunging or shooting skills can be really, really hard under pressure. That throbbing soundtrack keeps calling out Pingo Pingo. And if you haven't completed your challenge by the next time you hear that, guess what? Yeah, that's another life point lost. And then I would say, well, I can't really say then suddenly it's all over, because it doesn't feel like it's suddenly all over. Like an old favourite of ours, Space Alert, which also has an audio track you play along to, Pingo Pingo doesn't feel like a short game. It actually feels like it goes on for quite a long time, and that's because you're always laser focused when you're playing, and you have to pay attention to almost everything. Those 15 minutes are actually, they're pretty intense, and yeah, they're also pretty silly. So here's the thing. Pingo Pingo is fun. It's funny. It's moderately funny. It reminds me of a big favourite of ours, which is the speed grab game, snap and grab game, Jungle Speed, but with a bunch more embellishments added in. And those embellishments are okay, but the second game of Pingo Pingo is going to feel a lot like your first game, and so will your third. And that's okay, but I do wish that they had done a little more with the embellishments that they have here, with the novelties of this gun, which is a pretty cool prop, but doesn't actually do a huge amount. All these standees, which don't do a huge amount. I mean, you have things like, there are camp cards that come up occasionally, and if you can slap one of those, you can steal a couple of bits of treasure from other players, which is fine. It's a thing that you can do. It's not particularly exciting or novel. It's okay. This is good, but I feel it could have been something better. There could be more to the game, and while I don't regret running around shooting penguins and skidding back and forth across my home as I try and touch 2 ends of a rope bridge, I'm not really thinking about the next time I'll play, or what could be different next time. Whereas I am thinking about jump art, and I am thinking about how I'd like to play it again, actually, I could play it right now because it's been in my lap the whole time, even in the takes where I was standing up. Don't think about how that's possible, it's just how it was. Obviously, out of the two games, this is the one I would recommend. I can't really recommend Pingo Pingo, whereas this is light years ahead. It is the chunkiest and cheekiest fun that I've had with a game in quite some time. It's going to take pride of place in my collection. Now, because the best way to quantify how good anything is with numbers, and bigger numbers are better, I think the best way for me to end my day is to go off and measure my protrudences and time my handstands to see how good they are. Thank you very much for watching. Do let us know what you build and how.
It's for measuring your junk. It's for it's for measuring your junk. It's for measuring your junk. You're gonna use all of these takes at the end of the fucking video, aren't you?